Good morning.
Welcome to FYI.
Welcome.
For your information, I am Gerard Finance along with Cheryl Duncan this morning. Guys, it is a wet Tuesday morning. Tuesday the 17th of May 2022. We're here with you. And we have a guest, special guest in the studio with us this morning. You know,
Believe it or not.
and as you're seeing in the center, we have Natasha St. Louis. I have to take off.
All quiet, like a lamp in the slot.
I have to take off my notification sound off of my phone.
Mm-hmm.
And here we have Natasha with us this morning.
Yeah, she's going to have us along today. You know, we haven't had a guest in a long time.
A very long time.
Since the youths were here, we have.
Yes. And it's actually our second guest.
Yeah, believe it or not.
Our second
Historically. Yeah. FYI, history books. Yeah, welcome to that.
Warren says the black screen.
Warren says the black screen?
Yes.
We're going to try to solve that.
Warren, good morning. I am the
black screen?
wall.
Alright,
Okay, guys, we're going to fix that right now. We're going to fix that, guys. I don't know why you're not seeing us, but we're seeing ourselves on this screen for some reason.
Beatrice, you should tell us if you're seeing us or you're seeing the black screen too.
Yeah, I see on Beatrice said good morning, Sheridan and Natasha and Doretta. Beatrice joining from YouTube. So if Beatrice seen probably that Facebook is not treating us good, you know.
No.
Facebook has not been nice over a little while. But guys, we are working on that right now. You're gonna see what is going on. Give us a few seconds as our technical guys. Oh, well, they're saying no, still a black screen, no visual. We're working on it. Just give us some more.
My God, it's not something.
It's
the rain. It's the rain.
It's the weather.
It's the weather.
It's the weather. It's the weather, guys. It says a forest screen now. Yes. Well, we're getting there. Once we're seeing the lovely sunshine, the sunlight.
Yeah, we have
moving through the trees there. We're getting there.
You don't think power that should come, that's it.
Why you have been MIA? You
It's the bird.
It's the bird.
Beatrice says it's the bird.
We have good pictures.
Yes.
Good morning, folks. Good morning. It's a lovely, lovely morning. It's raining.
Yes, it's raining a lot. Cats in the pots, believe it or not.
But it's good. It's good. The rain is good, you know. And I always have to share my teachings. And so Jordan and Sherrod will learn that in Islam, when it rains, it is a good time to pray. It is a good time to make supplication to God Almighty. It's one of the times when it's sacred and you almost, for me, get through, you know, when you're in trouble and you want
to ask you guys if they can see us now, because I don't know what else we can do.
Yes, so
guys, I don't know, but can you see us now? Are you seeing us now, or is it still a black screen? I don't think they're seeing us.
Hold on. Let's see.
I don't know. Guys, are you seeing us now? No, well, they're saying no, they're not.
All right, we're gonna come back.
I'm monitoring from another screen right now, and I'm not seeing that. So. Black screen again. You know, we may very well have to come off and come back on.
All right, let's see.
This is going to be it. This is definitely going to be it. Guys, I think you're seeing us now. Please confirm. Please confirm that you are seeing us now. Assistant Burn says boom. See you now. Excellent.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Good. Thank you so much for
Stay
that.
calm.
Yes, we good now. Yes.
Listen, for people to not know the amount of work actually goes into pushing out these programs, because you have to be a technician, you have to be the internet tech person, you have to be a lighting technician. You have, I need my comments. Mr. Duncan, Chair Duncan, I need my comments.
You know, one thing we've learned is that every live stream is different. Everyone.
Yes.
Right? Everyone. Every time you come on, something else. There's no one you can set something and come back and it's going to stay like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So guys, let's take it from the top. Let's take it from the top. Let me join back.
We're gonna pause. We're gonna pause and what? Well, as we were saying, good morning to you again. Now that you can see our faces, and I'll say it is a wet Tuesday morning. It's raining cats and dogs outside. I'm cold as ever. However, we are here with you, and we have the wonderful Natasha Singh Lewis with us.
We're so
here
privileged,
this
aren't
morning.
we? We're so privileged to have our sister here with us.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
So Natasha.
She looks so quiet, you know, she looks disgusting. The National Assembly, she looks disgusting.
I miss you.
Yeah, I miss you. I miss you guys too. Yeah.
Today is actually Sharon's last day out. You know?
Don't remind me.
I'm reminding
Please,
you.
I've been enjoying a little rest and relaxation. I'm
We
not
miss
excited
you.
to see this speaker. I'm not.
We miss you. We miss
And
you,
them-
Sharon.
and
You have to
some
come
of the other
back.
folks.
You have to
I
come
was
back.
telling me,
You
I
have to
said,
come
I'm
back.
sure that the speaker misses him too.
Mm.
Very well. I think everybody in this
You
assembly
think
miss
so?
you. Yes,
Yes.
yes.
I'll
Even
be
the
back shortly.
staff.
I'll be back shortly.
Even the staff, they miss
Be back
you.
shortly.
Especially the staff, right?
Yeah.
Never a dull moment with Mr. Duncan in the house.
Mm.
I see Karen Black. Hey, Karen.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's awesome. Marilyn King, welcome to FYI. Natasha, it's a blessing to have you here.
Yes,
Right?
it is.
So-
It is. We love having Natasha. Love having Natasha.
Hey, Arwin Don Cook, how are you this morning? I see Tamika Webster's here this morning. I see Tessa Isaac Brizandi says blessings from Orlando this morning.
Yeah.
And of course, we have our friend Edward Gonzalez.
From the Bronx.
From-
Always from the
comments
Bronx.
wanting
Always.
from the
You know,
Bronx.
it's good just to prove to people we don't have a green screen. Because if we did, a half of Natasha might have been missing this morning. You just be seeing her face. You want what kind of story is this though? This is the end. So it's proof we don't have a green screen at the back. It's a functional set. We're so happy to have our sister here.
I wasn't even thinking about that.
Yeah, I just
Share
noticed
things
the
about
beautiful
the-
green. I just saw the beautiful green. That's why I said.
Share things
I
about the weirdest things. What is it? Is it Gigi?
Gigi.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
your person gave you a simple name. Candace in Ryan says it's a wet Tuesday. It is.
Yes.
And we owe you all like 24 minutes, 20 minutes.
Yes.
I'm black
We'll
screen.
make up. We'll
Yeah,
make up for that.
definitely.
It's-
Natasha said it best.
It's the rain. It's the
It's
bird.
the bird.
It's, you know, so many
that
things.
bird,
But
folks, that
but we're
bird.
here.
Warren
Yeah.
rubbing it in our faces. Warren says beautiful bright sunshine in Long Island and a warm day ahead.
No, but in the forecast locally, they say it's going to be cloudy through the morning, then thunderstorms right into the afternoon.
Oh, I
Thunderstorms, so it doesn't get better.
I think the thunderstorm has started
Mhm.
because from 7 this morning it was heavy pouring
Mhm.
rain.
I don't
Mhm.
like thunderstorm, especially in Georgetown.
Yeah.
I hope lightning strike the bird.
I
Father,
just,
help me.
I just actually passed the bird.
That thing, the creature.
You know,
What is
just
I see?
flying away.
Vanessa is saying it's the water snakes. Like I don't know.
Is it what? Oh, you sign? Give me ideas now. What is this? We don't need that. We don't need to know what this is.
It's nice warm weather in Queens, New York, and I see is it Millicent Rose
Mhm.
says good
Ross,
morning
is it
everyone.
Ross.
Ross, sorry, yes.
The whole eyes pure. She want good eyes, like she pumpkin. What's his use for eyes? What's I think like something.
I don't know.
Ginkgo for eyes. Whoever's the equivalent.
Pumpkin makes your
Pumpkin.
eyes
I think I
bright.
said
Callaloo make your
Pumpkin.
skin right.
Yeah.
No,
Pumpkin used
she's
to give me lots of
cool.
love.
Listen, I had an episode with my daughter because we were doing the same thing and we were looking at the grow food,
Yes.
and it's grow and what? I can't remember the other one.
Mhm.
I'm not too bright on
Mhm.
this.
But the weather is a little choppy outside, guys. So be careful. And you know, if you're driving, like
Yes.
Natasha is, you gotta watch braking distance
Yeah.
and all that. We saw white loads this morning.
Yes.
Big vehicle. If you see speed, like where this guy going, and with traffic,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you got. I was thinking back to my theory. Braking distance on wet roads and all that. You gotta calculate that to make sure.
20
you know,
feet. 20
It
feet.
seems like
Yeah.
he was looking to kill somebody.
If
I
you
don't
see
know.
No,
speed.
but Sharda, I want to say, on my way to studio, I saw the policemen in the pouring rain,
Mhm.
directing traffic and making it a bit easier because
But
of
kudos to them.
crazy people,
Mhm.
like you've
Mhm.
mentioned, and they really go out of their way.
Mhm.
I mean, I saw the statistics on the reports against police, it has actually increased 100% this year. But when they do things and they go the extra mile, I think credit is due. We should give it to them.
Yeah.
Like this
Agree.
morning, I saw
Agree.
the police.
Agree.
They're really out helping us to get
Yeah.
where we're going
Yeah.
safely,
Yeah.
even in the pouring rain. And I say thank you for that to our police folks out in the rain.
And you know, in that police force, in the Ghana police force, we got some decent folks. We got
Yes.
one or two
I
decent
spoke
folks.
about-
Everybody.
I spoke
Right, but we
about
got
some
some,
of those
you know,
before.
we got some decent folks. And, you know, kudos in times like these, in weathers like these, you need good traffic management.
Yeah.
And guys are out there in the rain, we say kudos. You know,
Yeah. So,
kudos to our papers lady too. She always out there in the rain, you know.
Yeah.
Always.
Ensuring
Rain
that
or
we get your
shine.
newspaper
Yeah,
on
yeah.
time.
Like the kind of
Yes.
efficiency, you know.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Where are we?
Guys, so we know we're a little bit late, so I'm gonna just rush over from the comment section. I'll be back with you a little bit later, but let's go straight into the morning
Yes,
papers.
what's happening
As
there?
we have as a
What's
body
happening?
of Follis
We got plenty
man
papers here. What do we say?
who murdered wife found. Body of Follis man.
Foulness, I think it's foulness. I think it's in there.
Follis. I always say
Foulness.
Follis.
Sorry.
That's how I say it. I don't know. Have
I
I
want
been
to
saying
be
wrong
talking about
my entire life? I've been
foul. Is that foulness? It's foulness as in FOW.
Foulness.
You know, it's in
I say
pronunciation.
Follis all the time.
But
I don't know why.
I mean, it's something uppity there.
Uppity.
Just in
Listen,
keeping with who you
listen,
are.
listen.
How
Country
is
people
that?
say fouls.
Fouls.
Country people say
Fouls. You
There's
see that?
fouls on the West
Fouls,
Coast suburbs.
Yeah. So if you live in Prado, Bill Tree, you see
Fouls.
Hey, don't get wild. Don't make me.
If you probably get you with the rest of us, fouls. Fouls. Right there. Not to distract from the topic, nonetheless.
Not to distract from a very serious matter at hand.
Fouls.
Yes. So as you're picking it up out of the news, is the partially decomposed body of it's Raj. I'm not going to call his first name. I don't want to go there. Who went missing after murdering his wife, Savitri Raj,
Yeah.
just a month ago. Was yesterday afternoon found in the Edmore Backlands East Coast Demerara. And guys, you would have remembered this story. We covered it. The man who actually murdered his wife and Savitri Raj.
Yes,
And then he went missing after. You know, where a lot of
Yeah.
persons were saying that and more needed to be done in order to capture him so that he would have to face the consequences of the law. But here we're seeing other reports coming in that his body was now found. So that's where we are with that.
Yeah, and actually we're going to be picking up about this with Natasha later in the program, because Natasha has launched a very lovely organization that deals with some of this issue in part and parcel, and also with an initiative that the Ministry of Social Protection, I think, is it still called that? Social Services, is launching or is aiming for, and it's right in keeping human services, in keeping with what is happening here, because we have said here several times that this is pandemic. This is pandemic now. There are more people dying to road accidents and physical violence and abuse and so on than the pandemic has taken in this country. So it's pandemic level, and it needs that kind of seriousness. And we're going to be talking a little bit more about this as we look at the things that are brewing this morning. Yeah.
Yes, as we continue.
You're just smiling. What comment you're reading there? I know it's not a story, so tell us what's happening there.
Guys, listen. Natasha, I usually take on the responsibility of referee in the comment section.
Because once you're happening here, there's another show, in the comment section.
Right, but every once and far, I have to jump in to put some peace and resolution to that situation
in the comment section.
So I have to constantly monitor it. So they notice you when I'm monitoring the section. So right.
I actually like being in the comment section.
Fighting too.
During in the ring, my position has always been to stop, finish my prayers, everything, stop what I'm doing, and I watch in the ring on my television on YouTube, and I have my phone in my hand. So I am
fully engaged.
Yes.
Yes,
you have to get in on the comment section drama. It's a nice brawl.
It's different.
It's a nice brawl in the comment section, and I do enjoy.
Some of them I can't read aloud.
different.
Ring, you know, I have to point this out. You know, that we would have some viewers would come on this live in the morning
Mhm.
and are so nice, so nice, decent in the comment section,
Yes.
all of these folks. And then these very same people
Mhm.
go in the ring at 8 o'clock.
And get come bad. Misbehave. We know y'all.
And I would
Y'all
see
know
the,
y'all
I would
stuff.
see the word.
Huh? Teresa Boyti Anderson.
Mhm.
You know yourself. You know yourself. Joy De Freitas, Sabbath Rizal. Fitzherbert Jarrett. Fitzherbert, how are you doing? And how is Connecticut today? What's the weather like in Connecticut? Let us know. I would love to hear Judith's pronunciation of Connecticut. Her uppity pronunciation.
Connecticut.
Yeah. What is happening in the morning papers?
Well, as we go on, another situation of a body of missing man found in Kanji Creek.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah.
is individual of Kevin France, body of Kevin, the quarantine man who went missing after the boat he was in capsized on Sunday in the Kanji Creek was discovered yesterday. Again, this is another story that we're giving this update on that we covered. That is Kevin France, 30 of from quarantine.
Ulverston.
What is the name of
He's
the place?
from Ulverston.
That is Natasha's place. Sure, her area. Mhm.
Ulverston in Region 6.
Rap in there.
Yes. Oh wow. But 30, Rita, 30.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
we've been
Prime of
noting
his life.
we've been noting a lot of boating accidents, and I think that's something that we need to tap into. The person needs to be very careful when they're on the water.
Yeah.
We just don't take it casually.
This is not the area you got to focus on, Natasha,
Yes.
because we've been seeing a series of these boat mishaps. Like it's every
Yeah.
week now. It is
Yeah.
a boat capsizing,
Mhm.
something, fishermen missing, and so on. This is an area that needs attention to. Is road accidents, boat accidents, and then you got the domestic violence, domestic
Yes.
abuse issue that are prevalent. We got to watch out. Yeah.
That is correct. But guys, as we're looking at that, one of the things I want to mention is I want to go into the morning brew. Can I go there?
Go ahead. Once you satisfied with that with the papers, you flick it away. Once you satisfied,
I just dash away the papers. So much going on in the papers. But let's go to
Right
the morning brew. But we have somewhat paused a bit on the reporting when it comes to the war in Ukraine. I think that I have an issue with the way in which globally there is this whole posture
Mhm.
that this is just another thing. How many persons when
Is
we
it?
realize that how persons the lack of interest of people just like this.
Yes.
Right? You focus on something for a little bit, and if you don't keep bringing and more news is just every single day something new is happening, and then certain things of serious magnitude just get pushed to the side. And the war of Ukraine, it's still there.
Yeah.
It's still going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
The implications are still being felt
Yeah.
throughout the world. And
Yeah.
that's something that I
Yeah.
want to talk about. And among those, one of the things we picked up out of BBC World this morning is the fact that global wheat prices has jumped after India export ban.
Mhm.
Right? It says the benchmark wheat index rose as much as 5.9% in Chicago, the highest it's been in 2 months, right? The export ban comes after a heat wave hits India with crops, taking domestic prices to a record high. So when we see these things, again, we always say that our world is so integrated that these things always have the ripple effect of affecting us throughout the globe. And once we
That's
see it
all
at
house
that,
and all house, really true.
Yeah.
and I can just add in at
Whole
this
house
point
and all house.
also, Sherrod, the fact that we have covered 2 mornings consecutively, the fact that with the formula that is in the milk, the
Mhm.
baby milk product, and the fact that there's a shortage, and then the US was seeking to buy up in bulk
Mhm.
from the world market that specific product, and then what does it say for countries like us
Mhm.
and our access to those products
Yeah,
altogether?
but I'm saying I can't fault the US.
Mhm.
If it cares about the citizens to this extent, what are we doing
But
for
that,
our
that,
mothers
that
here?
is,
That's the important
yes.
thing.
Well, when are we going to say, oh, well, let's buy this?
Yeah.
Or are we going to wait until
When we
it's
train out
completely
our money.
off the shelves?
Yeah,
Are we gonna be waiting on
that's
that?
something that we import, right?
yeah,
Something
yeah,
that's
yeah,
import.
yeah, yeah. But Drew and I were talking a couple of days ago when we were looking at this very issue. How important is it? Because what did we do before there was formula?
We breastfed.
We breastfed.
I breastfed all of my children.
Yeah.
Yes.
What did we do? Prior to that, but we're so in touch with the new age. You go, you buy formula. The substitute for breast milk and all of that, and
I
that's
breastfed both my children.
Mhm.
Because some of us want to maintain our bodies.
Well, there's that
Yeah.
too. There's that too.
There's no amount of whatever you could do to safeguard certain things. So,
No, but
Like I want no more. Like I feel like I want no more.
when you breastfeed your baby, the mother and the child develop a
A
bond.
bond.
That's one of the benefits. And we've seen today how distant children, very early, they are distant away from their parents. They don't listen, they go away. We don't have that connection because we start to do the things from the time they're born. And
So when you see some baby, you can say, you get breastfed.
you can ask.
You
You can ask.
Interesting. No, but it's an interesting thing that's happening globally. This shortage of shortage of the formula and so
yeah,
on.
that's correct.
And how do we go about it? US is going about it one way. Can't fault them. They're interested in how what happens there. What are we doing as a society to safeguard our mothers? And we're going to be following this to see how the prices go on the local shelves and what is the supply like locally, because that's one other thing now we're gonna add high prices to.
A couple of days ago, we were concerned about rice being on the shelves in the supermarket.
Sugar gone up.
And like George said, there is a rippling effect to that wheat ban.
Yeah, we already saw it. There was there's a 15%, I believe, increase in the price of wheat right here.
Yes.
Only recently. So
$14 added to gasoline.
correct.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's $100% sugar gone up. I think it used to be
from
70
70 to 140.
So
And we buying sugar from where again?
buying from yourself. Yeah. Buying from yourself. Twice the price.
How does that even make
Twice the price.
Yeah.
How does that even make sense?
Natasha, I thought you would make sugar great again. I mean,
how does that even make
I mean,
sense?
that was a song before 2020, and they stopped singing the song. They are going on a different road now. We saw what is happening with the estates. We saw what is happening with the CEO. Collecting $1.2 million every month with a solid package after that, and sugar is going down. And the persons who are employed in the estate are suffering tremendously, and within their communities, apart from their employment at Gaisuku. If you look where the sugar workers come from, particularly in Region 6, they tell you about the drainage situation. They tell you about increase in food prices. And every time they make a big fuss, there's a big hullabaloo. The Minister of Agriculture, the Vice President goes down to Region 6 and say, take a handout, take some hampers, take an increase. And then they come to the National Assembly with a supplementary for money, and they give them, in bulk. But that is not going to solve the problem for sugar. How long are we going to, the oil money will finish, The oil money will finish, and we're not doing things structurally. We're not learning from Trinidad. We're not learning from Venezuela. And so you have to ask yourself, even at this point in 2022, where are we going? What's going to happen to us? What's going to happen to my children in 10, 15 years from now? 10, 15 years, both of them would be at university. Would we see a better quality of education at the University of Ghana, because in 2022 we would have made the investment in the university. We would have made the investment in the infrastructure to develop it. But instead, we're taking the money by bulk, and we're buying. I noticed last evening we're buying bulk fertilizers.
$1 billion.
How is that?
But I just saw that differently. I don't know.
An approach to develop our nation. How is that? When are we going to stop doing the handout thing? You understand?
As a matter of fact, one of the articles, guys, we put out on Incredible Sources or affiliate website talks about that. The fact that there has been no investment mandate in the NRF. Other countries have invested their monies and are reaping the benefit of that from global stock markets, global funds, and so on. We have not even. I don't even think the board that's been appointed has even met. And it's that board and the committees therefrom that are going to say what those monies are going to be invested in. And the longer we take to do that, that money is not bringing any returns for us. It's just sitting there.
But I don't see. I think we need to go like in the nitty gritty of the act altogether to actually
Yes.
look at the power of the committee and board, because as far as it is, they have ripped out all of the real functionalities of those bodies,
Mhm,
and it is
mhm.
at a point now. So basically, that about a report receiver unit
Yes.
in some cases. So definitely, a lot more has to be said on that front. But what we can say is that when we're looking specifically at natural resources, the act as is right now, the only thing that they changed was the fact that they ripped out all the transparency and good governance out of it altogether, all the oversight and all of those things. But they retained a lot of it. But the only thing that they were not interested in is that we had good transparency and good oversight and stuff like that. So that's a whole discussion all by itself. But we have a lot that we need to talk about, especially when it comes to investment and the lack thereof, and no plan to go down in that road
Yep.
as it would seem.
Yep. What's else? What else is brewing?
Well, continuing in I found this interesting personally. On the international front, again, BBC World is reporting that an anti-abortion group targets women with misleading ads, and we have been, I read it and I
I
was.
wanted Natasha's views on this.
Yes, right. But we've been reading a lot, especially when it comes to that leaked opinion piece that in the US there at level Supreme Court that we mentioned when it comes to the overturning of that abortion law, that historical abortion law that
Roe
we
v. Wade,
also know keenly, the Roe versus Wade. However, now this woman was the stories about a woman basically that was pregnant, and she was looking online for an abortion clinic, and when she actually went to this clinic, she met a group which was anti-abortion. So they actually was then moving in the direction to convince her not to have the abortion, right? And so there are a lot of other groups out there like that one that is out there just parading themselves as abortion clinics and stuff like that. But when people go, they try
do
to
the
convince the
otherwise,
women
yes.
to go in the they're
might
pro-life,
Okay.
right?
Interesting.
Yes.
I might join them.
And pro-life.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
pro-life.
I might be a little bit different.
Mhm.
I believe life and death is from God Almighty,
Mhm.
and a mother is just the carrier of that life and the protector of that life until God decides death is for that life. And so I don't encourage people to do abortion. I encourage people to be careful.
Mm.
And we can respect that.
Yeah.
We can respect that.
But what I think also is that I think generally persons I think the state, the government has of a high role to play throughout the world. Governments have large roles to play in terms of pushing a pro-life agenda. To say if a woman cannot afford to take care of a child, if a woman is in a situation that she basically believes that she can't carry the child and all of those things, how are you dealing with that? What is the support given by the state to the mother and so forth? So all that child care assistance and all of that, we need to look at those holistically. And so but I have a tendency to be pro-life myself, so
more power to you.
It's a difficult thing, to conceptualize. But I do know that there are some situations in which women have to, like some women are left with a lot of times the doctors actually are left with a choice whether or not to save the mother's life as against saving the baby's life and so forth. And the decision is always made to save the mother's life, because in many instances, the mother may have other children too to take care of. And so there's a difficult battle altogether.
I'm being insolvent this morning because Roe v. Wade was decided, umpteen years ago. We're still fighting that battle.
It's still
so
being fought
we can be debating this a long time to come.
But that's a bit that's on the morning. As on the international front, there's some website out there that does some things. Oh, and another thing persons talk about is the fact that a lot of places where abortion is illegal, women would go to what they call quack,
Yeah,
right?
that's a very dangerous
and
thing.
literally
Yes.
risk their lives. Lots of women died. And my mother would tell me stories like lots of women that she knew died because they went to some quack somewhere to an abortion that is cheap, number one, because the women in a lot of cases just think that they can't afford to take care of the child. And when they do these quack abortions, persons don't have sterilized equipment and whatever they're using.
Yeah.
They're not even put on
They
an
end up-
anesthetic.
And that's even
and
too
it's just,
knowledgeable.
Yeah.
So instead of doctors, we got
Yeah.
quacktors. But coming close to home, in the region, we got some stuff happening in Trinidad. Which we thought we think would be useful for discussion here, because the Trinidad seems to have a similar problem like us here, especially with the prisons. But the commissioner, they have a commissioner of prisons, Mr. Dio Prasad Ramachar. He's said to be cleaning up the prisons. He's working to weed out those bad officers. Umpteen times we see searches that carried out here, cell phone, like every day. You clear out 60 cell phones, tomorrow they got another 60. Lighter, sponge, wire.
Sure. These prisoners are very, very creative.
The prisoners, nah? Right.
They're creative.
So, the attention is being placed on this new commissioner of prisons in Trinidad, Dio Prasad Ramatar, who is said to be cleaning up the prisons. He's been working with his officers, and he seems to be getting some results. We need that kind of thing here. We need that kind of leadership from the front. We talk a lot here, right? But then we go back tomorrow and see.
We had some situation in which the leadership from the front didn't work when someone was trying to go into the prison. The reception there wasn't very good.
Yes,
right? We had a situation like that.
No, but you see, it can be those
right?
one-offs, and those photo op moments.
Yeah.
When there's a riot, then we go and see
What's
what is the problem.
Yeah.
When the guys are rioting, or there's a protest or a hunger strike, or so, we will see what the problem is. As against constantly looking at the system, how can we tweak this? How can we modernize? How can we keep the public safe? How can we reform people? The point is, we dump people there, and we forget about the facility, we forget about the program and all of that. As against constantly upgrading the system. And this is what these guys are doing here. Somebody recently said that Trinidad falling apart. But when you look at Trinidad, you can see what they do with their money.
Yeah.
You understand? You can see what they do with their money. We talk about investing in education. Trinidad went for education a long time ago, right? Moving past that to make sure that people who can't afford to even meet to university, they're paying the passage. There's a facility for them to the state to buy books for them. At university level. You can see. I think Trinidadians per capita are bright people. The amount of degrees. You work in a company in Trinidad, the average young person, 18, 19, 20, coming in with a first degree. Right? They invested in that. They went after that.
And they
go after
developed
that.
systems.
They developed systems. That's the important thing.
I can tell you in Trinidad, one of the things that they did, and this is before 2012, what they did was they had an influx of private institutions at the post-secondary and tertiary level in Trinidad. And I guess it's because of the oil and everything else. But what they did, they said to students that the government is going to give you scholarship to study post-secondary and tertiary education, but you must be admitted in an accredited, in a government-recognized institution. So what they were doing in a very smart way is encouraging these private schools to be regularized, to meet the standards to offer post-secondary and tertiary education. You want to ask the question, what's happening in Guyana? Everybody's opening a school. Ask them who's meeting the standards. Ask them how did you get the standard of approval. But everybody is going to do a certificate course, and this is something that we have to talk about at some other point, because I was doing the research for the mental health bill, and somebody is doing a 6 weeks and an 8 week course and want to open the door to say that they are therapists. Because what is happening in our society today, we have a lot of mental health issues. And so people are reaching out, especially our young people, they're reaching out for help. But we as legislators, we as a country, we owe it to these people to ensure that they have proper service. And proper service means qualified people, and it goes back to the education system. Qualified people. Nobody that does a 6 weeks program can evaluate you, your behavior, your mental state.
They would never be licensed to do that in any other country. But I think that's the direction that we need to go in when actually having persons licensed. A lot of times persons go and they study and all those things, they come out and they believe that they're the expert in something. But I think there are some there are some best practices that we can look at throughout the world when it comes to the licensing of certain people, especially when it comes to those things. Therapist needs to be licensed, psychologist needs to be licensed. You can't just decide that you are a psychologist. But I think Natasha made an excellent point, and I want to emphasize on it, that there's a lot of schools popping up all over the place. And I want to say that that was even something that was admitted at the level of the minister in parliament when she said that they had extended the education grant to private schools. And her words to the National Assembly was that so many schools was coming in that some of them they never heard about. Right? And I saw that as something very worrying, and I stated it several times, different programs, different forums, that is not something that we should just take lightly, that there are schools that are operating, that the ministry, that there is no system in place to actually monitor that what they are doing, what quality of education they're providing, when people are going and paying these people to teach their children. And I have an issue with that. But now when it comes to tertiary education, and I want to make this point very profoundly, because there are institutions in our country right now that is taking people's money, telling them, providing courses that they're saying that the University of Guyana isn't offering. Those persons, many of them are not accredited. They are not accredited, and persons are going and paying their monies to these persons without knowing that they're not accredited. You know, they have a nice name, you know, and you believe that you're going to this better institution. They're not accredited.
I think the most infamous of them is one they had in Reading Tree. Some people call it a business school. We call it Eiffel University. Wasn't accredited.
It didn't exist.
But we've known of public scandals in this. Remember the infamous nursing school?
Yeah. And that cropped up several times after the initial shutdown for the same thing of accreditation. Then it popped up in some other name. That's one of the challenge
people are being scammed. And I think the government needs to take a proactive approach as it relates to private education. Whether it's nursery to tertiary, a proactive approach. I know there is legislation in place for it, but the systems internally needs to be boosted.
Yeah. And the same way we consult for hairstyles in school, the same way we consult, we're forcing teachers to go and be trained, and all that, we can take a very proactive approach to it.
I think Beatrice and also they're opening a lot of private hospitals and not fixing the public hospital.
Well, there's that.
Beatrice, you hit the nail on the head.
Hit the nail on the head. But let's hit now with our regional issues and we come home. This is what we saw. This is our what they said segment. We talk about what he said, she said, they said. And this here is the Daily Express in Trinidad. And there was an interesting judgment that was recently handed down by the Privy Council. You all know the headquarters for the CCJs in Trinidad, but they don't subscribe to the CCJ. They subscribe to Privy Council. I wonder why. One wonders. But the Privy Council, the Privy Council has recently pronounced on the mandatory death sentence. You know, you can still give the death sentence, but because of all these international bodies, it's usually commuted to life, right? The Privy Council breaks a hold up. So the Privy Council recently, in a particular case, said coming out of the Daily Express in Trinidad, the Privy Council has ruled that the mandatory death sentence or sentence for death for murder in Trinidad and Tobago is constitutional.
Correct.
It's constitutional, and only Parliament can reform and update the laws. Basically, it's constitutional, so they can do what they have to do there. Right? Interesting, because what has been over time we've seen when somebody's given the death sentence, they say, you appeal to some international body, something, and then it's commuted to life because it's cruel and inhumane punishment. And the thought here is that even though it's cruel, Privy Council says it's lawful.
Cruel but legal.
Right? It is cruel but legal. And so they say here, in view of the law lords, the 1976 Constitution saves existing laws, including the mandatory death penalty, from constitutional challenged. Parliament has to change it. So the consequence is that the state of Trinidad and Tobago has a statutory rule which mandates the imposition of a sentence, which will often be disproportionate and unjust. This was their law. So you don't give, even though you get the death penalty, they institute a sentence, whether it's life or whatever the case would be, or 100 years or 50 years, right? Even though it is disproportionate or unjust, the sentence is recognized internationally as cruel and unusual punishment. The state does not dispute that characterization. The Privy Council stated in a judgment it delivered quite recently. Again, even though it's cruel, they're saying, it's constitutional, it's lawful. Interesting. In some instances, one would think, we might need to bring back the death penalty, because when you see certain things happen, and we talked about some of it, when you see the way in which, men mostly, are killing our women, coming back to domestic abuse, and the particular case of Raj there, I think he snuck in through the woman's window, and stabbed her up, several times, right? Sometimes, and sometimes in some instances, it's not only the specific instance of that murder, but you have to send a strong message that this kind of behavior is not tolerated. I think we have done a lot of injustice to women and to their families and so on by the way in which some of these issues are dealt with. And this is one you got to really, really deal with very, very, very strongly. Domestic abuse. Yeah.
So most definitely, and I always say that there's one thing I think people should put that's only that changes is persons that are pedophiles. Like I have that. I've read lots of research that actually goes with what I say, that pedophiles is almost impossible to change their mentality when it comes to that specific crime. Yes.
Locally, coming to the roads.
Locally, what are we looking at?
Coming to the roads.
Government proposing manslaughter charge for causing death while drunk driving.
Yeah. The scourge on the roads. We dealt with this last month.
Yeah.
We looked at here on this program, and our programs in general, we're talking about the sheer carnage. And, from doing the research, we've come to the conclusion that Guyana has the most dangerous roads in the world. We see so many accidents last month when we did the research, and the lives that were taken. It's surpassed what was taken by COVID, a pandemic. There's a pandemic on the roads, abuse, gender-based violence, and all of that. The next pandemic, carnage on the roads, carnage on the roads, and this I think is a step in the right direction.
Yes, and also I know that the Road Safety Council and the minibus union has welcomed the proposal. The minibus union, I have been calling them out of it because I say something has.
We don't hear often enough of penalties, Natasha. You hear about all these accidents, gruesome accidents, and so on, but the penalties, I don't hear license being suspended or being,
Yeah, but I think this one, with what is being proposed right now, is actually to have person's license permanently revoked and things like that. So, like I said,
step in the right direction.
I would support.
Step in the right direction. What's happening next?
Well, as we are looking at what's happening next, I see Minister Vindhya urges on persons to report domestic violence. Vindhya Prasad is urging persons to report domestic violence. I can say a lot about this altogether because when it comes to the reporting aspect of domestic violence, the studies would show, right, that
Talk to us.
That is it's not a walk in the park for women to go and report situations of domestic violence altogether, and in many cases, the environment altogether does not foster, it's not welcoming to abuse women for them to feel comfortable enough to and make these reports.
Well, I know this is one of the areas of Natasha's expertise. And Natasha's, started an NGO, launched an NGO recently to this effect called Sisters Together Incorporated. And so, Natasha, talk to us about this issue here and how your organization, with the theme "Hope for Women," might be able to tackle some of this.
All right. So, Shara, thank you for allowing me to share a little bit about my organization. I want to say that Sisters Together Incorporated was conceptualized in 2018. We went through the whole legal story of getting us in the court and registered. In January 2019, we've actually received our certificate of incorporation. And then so many things would have happened that we were not able to put it together to launch, because you and I will know that there's a lot of work that has to be done in the back end before the public really sees what happened.
Yeah.
And so all of that would have taken place, and we would have launched our organization last Thursday. I want to thank Jorita. She was our star in front seat. She really represented you, Mr. Duncan.
Thank you.
She did great. Our vision for Sisters Together Incorporated, empowering women and girls for community development, is really where our conversation started. Like myself, the founder, our directors on the board, we have Wainwright McIntosh, who is an education officer specialized in special education. Most of his life he would have given to Rotary. And we have a community development officer in Region 6, Ms. Vanessa Ross. We have, because we're interested in the young people, the young girls, we have a student from the University of Guyana as our youth rep, Sarah Singh, and the chairman of our board, Mr. John Alexander Lewis, who himself would have done a lot of charity work in Region 6 when he was the CEO of Burmine. I think a community in Angois Avenue would have been named after him, recognition of his work. So we have a lot of resources at that level. Each one of us would have done our own bit in our communities countrywide. We sat down and we thought, if we put all of this together, we can serve better. What we decided to do was look at the population that is more deserving. And when we list them, we saw women and girls are more deserving of our attention at this point in time. We decided that education should play a major role in moving forward. And so between 2019 January to now, what we have been doing is going out to communities, meeting with women and girls in small groups and helping them along the way. I want to list 4 communities that stand out and would have made significant stride in that regard. Linden, and I'm very, very happy to say this, there's a circle of women in Linden. When we met, we sat together as a group. There's a formal group there. When we asked, well, we are going to give you support. We are not going to give anything else more than support, but the work has to come from you because we want you to develop your community. You know what Linden said to us? They're interested in 2 things at this point in time. Sisters Together Incorporated should help them to establish a mentorship program for young girls. Mm-hmm. Sisters Together Incorporated should help them to develop a safe space for domestic violence victims in their community. And I'm so happy that they would have been able to sit down. And I should tell you, while sitting down together to make these decisions for themselves, the composition of the group, I have head teachers, current head teachers in there, businesswomen, lawyers, and all the young entrepreneurs. I have about 15 women in that group. It's a very diverse group, and they are willing to give of their time freely to work for the women in Linden.
Awesome.
I am so happy that they would be doing that, and we have to provide that leadership support to help them to mobilize and organize themselves and do things for themselves, because I believe they have the resources that is necessary, they have the will, and they can do it themselves.
Correct.
Another community we're working with is Mocha Arcadia. We've already had our first sessions. And folks, to let you know that they've decided that they are going to take things into their own hands. They're having a breakfast sale at the Four Corners at Mocha this Saturday. They're going to raise funds so that they can do something for the young girls during the July-August holiday. And so they have gone ahead. Another community we're working with right now is Rosignol. Well, you know, Rosignol is where I come from. And so I will give to the other 9 regions, but Region 5, my heart is there, and I will always go back to Rosignol. They are now in the process of putting themselves together as a formal group, and we will give them the leadership support, whatever they need to get themselves together. When we met for the very first time in December, they said to us, a major issue in Rosignol itself in Region 5, and I feel that goes across the region, is domestic violence and a lack of support for women and girls. And so they are specifically, all the programs that they will sit to develop and plan and execute would be for domestic violence. And so we've started to work already. What we're going to do as we move along, our first activity for 2022 was the launch. We are in the process of developing a list of resource persons to help us, because most of what we do is voluntary.
Awesome.
And I want to say at this point in time, we're going to continue to go out to organizations. We're going to consult with other NGOs, and we're going to fire on to do the work that we've set out to do. But we, of course, like everybody else, we need your support, financial and otherwise. Visit our Facebook page, Sisters Together Incorporated. Visit our Instagram, Sisters for Us, and visit our, what's the other one, Sharon?
Website.
No.
Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn.
TikTok, Sisters Together, TikTok. And our number, Sharon, I think you should do that part.
Right. Yeah. We got the number here is 625-7593. And Natasha, I really want to thank you for birthing and launching this fantastic organization. 665-7563. What did I say? 665-7593. 665-7593 is the name, is the number for the organization. Again, Sisters Together Inc. Birthed and launched, birthed since 2019, you said, and launched quite recently, and a very useful organization, because the more voices we have on these matters, the better we aim at mitigating or eliminating altogether this scourge of domestic violence.
I do believe, Sharon, that while we can sit and talk and raise and awareness is a big part of what we do, we must get down on the ground.
Correct.
We must go to the people. They must feel us. They must see us. When persons call the 914, I heard Dorita saying that the minister is asking people to report domestic violence. When you call the 914 and it doesn't work,
I spoke about that on previous program too.
It should be another step. When you go to the police and they don't take your report, or they embarrass you at the station, call us. And that number, Sharon has it there, 665-7593. Our email is hopeforwomen6@gmail.com. Facebook is Sisters Together, and Instagram is Sisters Together for Us. Utilize those mediums to get in contact with us. I certainly know that Dorita would not waste any time picking up the phone to call the commander to say, right now there is somebody at Coven John Police Station that is having a hard time. That's what we do.
Make it right.
Yes.
Make it right.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me and giving me that opportunity to tell all of the FYI patrons that we have launched our organization. To ask you to join us to make it bigger and better.
Sisters Together Inc. The outside folks.
Yeah, well, if I dare say, I think that's the launch of the organization is it was launched at one of our most critical times as a country when it comes to domestic violence and the scourge that we are facing right now. With domestic violence, I know that I know that women in generally are desperately in need of such an organization to aid in whatever way they could to help them when they most need help. And I'm happy that you are putting out that number there so persons can call if they're having issues with the police, that intervention can be made on your behalf, because a lot of those persons are scared.
665-7593 is the number that you want to bear in mind. And as we come down to the big issue this morning, we're talking about the extractive industries locally and what's been happening. See Ashley here.
Shirley found a
your
nice
boy Ashley
photograph of
I always
Ashley.
like nice photographs of folks. I like nice.
He does
they
not do
don't.
them.
They
He
don't
does
treat
not
us
do
with the
them.
same
That's
courtesy,
no.
but
We don't get the
Yes.
courtesy. But
they don't treat the same
That's
courtesy.
the point. We don't get the
Right.
courtesy.
A good photograph. She looks happy here, and it's because of what he was talking about. Because Starbuck News even noted the fact. Starbuck News even noted the fact that Ashley Singh was kind of beaming.
Yes, with joy, delight, whatever.
The discussion here is government and the extractive industry and how they might be doing in that sector. And we know, some things might be going good.
Filled with pride.
Right?
That's the word.
Filled with pride. But some of it not so much. And we could start with perhaps EITI and what they've been doing there. The oversight body for the extractive industry, they've
the head.
Yeah.
Gutted, removed.
Yeah,
Technical
yeah.
experts touched in the corner.
Mhm.
Political lappies pushed to the
They
top.
really like experts.
What you want me
so,
to say?
Studies and so on. So they've moved the head. Dr. Rudy Jadapat was the head of EITI. His deputy was Prem Mazir, Dr. Prem Mazir. No experience in that field by any means, but he's always been an ardent supporter of the PPP. Worked for the PPP.
Yeah.
Was I think
at the university.
wasn't the vice chancellor? Was the next role? Pro-chancellor at the
for
university.
quite a while.
Quite a while there. Served in the government information agency for quite a long time, doing propaganda for the people and so on. And this is about that's what he did in the what's it called back then? GIS. What's the government information? GINA. Yeah, he was the head there, the director, something like that.
I could remember that.
Worked you young yet? Hold on. Worked there for a long time. Used to do editorials on behalf of the government and different issues and so on.
I think he still does.
Yeah, work.
He writes for the government.
Yeah.
Right now.
Mhm.
And so he isn't independent, and the body is meant to be independent of political influence because you want that oversight function. Government can't watch
because
government.
we want that.
Right? Government can't watch
They
government.
don't want that. That's
And
why
so
he's there.
They moved Rudy Jadapat from the extractive industries as being the oversight head for that international organization, the local arm. That's the first thing. And then we can go on from there. Yeah.
But Shara, there's something across their government, they've taken off all of the senior qualified technical people, send them home. We say that they fired them because there's no other way to say that. They've fired senior technical people and they've replaced them with yes men. You can interpret what yes men mean.
Yeah.
And a very good example.
Sure, say how high. That's basically what they have there right now.
Is the NRF bill and all that they've done to that particular legislation. It's basically yes men. They've taken out all of the technical people and people who will say yes to vice president, because we know it's vice president who calls and does everything. When you can say yes, you get to be appointed. Your qualification, your experience doesn't matter.
It has no bearing.
Yeah. And that's what we were pointing out, because here was Kwame McCoy last evening. Typical case at the Canadian High Commissioner's residency at an event there, talking about some assault on quote unquote possible assault on the media personnel, and
You have to define assault.
Kwame McCoy,
The same person that assaulted Tabitha Sarabo.
same person, and also is alleged to have assaulted by throwing fecal matter in the face of
Freddie Kissoon.
columnist and journalist Freddie Kissoon.
Forgot that.
And also is basically the oversight person in terms of government media. If you talk about qualifications and pushing people, to study who are not, aptly qualified, is another story altogether.
How do you talk about that?
Right? But on that note, Starbuck News picked up on, of course, Ashley Singh and this broad smile, as you characterize it there. Full of pride, because he was talking about our country exporting manganese for the first time in some years. And, Starbuck News has weighed into that in several areas. And he said that Starbuck News, rather an editorial, quite recently said that Dr. Singh's presentation was not as forward-looking and enlightened right? It was not a forward-looking, enlightened perspective that the country and the private sector needed to hear. And then it outlined why. It went on to say that it is shameful that in the year 2022, after the long history of exporting manganese as part of the extractive industry, this country is without value added, right? That we continue down this path. We started exporting manganese 50 years ago, 70 years ago, and we're still exporting raw manganese. We have not moved on from that. And they went on to tell us the value added means, we don't use it in glass manufacturing. Correct. We don't use it in batteries, for instance. And so we get a mere pittance from it. And then we ship it to places like China who add value to it. And then we got to buy it back at some exorbitant cost. So that was one of the issues that Sarah picked up on.
I really want to know if we will have that same smile if we were to ask him about bauxite.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No, they certainly don't.
Or sugar.
Or sugar, yes. Yes.
No, but there is a lot to talk about the extractive industry per se, because this is not, and that specific editorial was dealing with manganese, but we have an issue that is right there, that this is about to happen. It started already with gold altogether, and the way in which that they are bringing in these large companies, again, as I would say, to rape the country of our natural resources, when the persons that the residents in these communities are left to deal with the aftermath of the environmental destruction, when the community does not benefit directly from the extraction of these resources altogether. I think it is most ridiculous, and we have to be very circumspect when we are looking at it. A lot of times people go out there and they hope they stand in front of a mic and they have good lighting and so on. They've got a nice bright smile, filled with pride. You know why? Because they see the direct benefits themselves and that little clique at the very top. But for the majority of Guyanese and for the persons that actually need to benefit from those resources, it's another story altogether.
Natasha, maybe you can weigh in here. Here is Sarah Cruz again on the very issues of the manganese export and so on, saying that other hazards associated with the conduct of the company was under the microscope as well, this specific Chinese company. Several of its employees died during the initial scoping work in the old mines, likely as a result of leptospirosis. It would call into question the type of safety gears utilized in the mine area, where there would have been a high bat population, and droppings would have enabled the proliferation of leptospirosis. And the company has also been accused of storing manganese in close proximity to residents, exposing them to toxic dust. So, this bright, what's the smile again? The smile, this bright smile Ashley had. Pride. One of pride. Yes. And Sam said, not so fast. And again, we go to these independent sources, because when we say some stuff, we think, oh, it's y'all, it's them boys, it's the usual suspects. But here are other people who got concerns as well, Natasha.
But Sharad, on a broader view, this government does not care for the welfare and well-being of our people. So that would not be something that the Minister of Labor, Joseph Hamilton, would want to interfere with, because, Ashley is smiling in relation to the Chinese company and the good work they're doing with manganese. But we will call into question, what is the EPA doing?
Yeah.
Because EPA has an equal role in protecting these people.
The EPA?
In regulating.
I'm happy you mentioned that. I'm happy you mentioned that. Hold on, Trita. I'm happy that Natasha mentioned that. I'm becoming to gold just because you're here, specialty. Natasha, here's what this editorial said again on this manganese export, guys. And we trust that you guys are sharing the live stream so that folks get vital, incredible information. You're smashing that emoji button. Huh?
I really wanted to say that.
Oh, sorry. We have to give you a chance. Go ahead.
It's early in the morning, but this is my first visit on FYI, and I want to use the bad word. Share the damn live stream. Smash the emoji. Share the damn live stream. Natasha's on FYI this morning. Share the damn live stream.
I stopped saying that because for whatever reason. And then somebody said, "Why are you not saying the word?"
Yes.
say the word.
Sherrod, I often introduce myself when they say all those nice things about me. I say, I am naughty Natasha.
Naughty Natasha. So here what it says here in the editorial. It says, September last year, a section of this GMI, this is the Chinese company, the reservoir dramatically collapsed and washed away a section of the road which connects Matthews Ridge and Port Kaituma there. To date, there has been no word of any penalty to GMI or what steps have been taken by the Ministry of Natural Resources and the Environmental Protection Agency to ensure the safety of residents and the infrastructure in that area.
Take that. Where is the PA comment? When are they going to comment?
Well, I think we answered the question several times since we started this discussion, because we're saying that you cannot remove the experts and expect those bodies to function as they should. And this is the issue that we're seeing throughout. We have removed experts.
And the expert in the EPA case was Dr. Vincent Adams.
The expert there was Vincent Adams, and I have to say that you will not find another Vincent Adams.
Right.
He is the expert.
The professional.
Right. This is somebody that the Obama administration held dear. You understand? Because he knew what he was about. This is somebody that was so on top of his game that I don't think these companies, the larger companies, to put it mildly, was actually fond of the work that he was doing, because he was holding them to account every aspect, making sure that they don't get away with anything. So now they remove the experts and these bodies are left to function without the technical expertise. And because of that, they're not able to do what they are required to do. And I think, and that was very, and those decisions were made because that is the way in which they wanted, the administration wanted like that. They want to have persons there that are not too au fait with how to deal with certain matters. So they got to pick up the phone and call them and say, oh, what should I do about this? How should I write this? You know, who do you think I should send? You think I should do a report on this? And that is what we're dealing with right now, because they have gutted the system of any bit of knowledge and expertise altogether. And that is where I stand with that.
And ultimately, the people of Region 1, in this case of the manganese company, the people of Region 1, they are suffering right now.
Correct. And in that photograph, we saw this beaming Ashley Singh. This was actually at the private sector commission, the AGM recently, and he was making these comments. He was standing in for Irfan, and he was making all of these comments. And one of the things he said is that we could have very shortly here 3 gold companies bigger than OMI. And Sabbath of course picked up on this. Is now we said, so don't abuse us, you know. Sabbath y'all gonna abuse them out on the website. They say the operations of OMI Gold Mines Limited could hardly be held up as a progressive model for investment. Even in the 1990s, when the Hoyt administration was desperate to attract foreign investment. An adequate forensic examination has never been conducted of its operations here to determine exactly why corporation tax was never paid, even though hundreds of thousands of ounces of gold were extracted for measly royalty returns. We seem to always attract a measly royalty return. And the editorial goes on finally to say that Oman Gold Mines Limited, as pointed out by Starbuck News, also bequeathed to this country its worst ever environmental disaster, the collapse of the tailings dam, which sent cyanide-laced pollutants into the Omai Creek and then into the Essequibo River. And it says here, instead of immediately shutting down the operations and pursuing damages against it, the then PPC government kind of cozied up to Omai Gold Mines and allowed it to continue extraction with a mere slap on the wrist. And basically, Sabbath is saying here, don't get too excited, because these operations of this nature are always fraught with lots of potential hazards.
But Sharad, that being said, that's how the PPP government operates. They take off the cream of what the country has to offer. They sell it to foreign investors. They get their drawbacks from the transactions, and very little returns to the communities for which they take away from. What would you say to the people of Region 1? I've noted a comment there that I want to respond to, but it's in relation to education, and it's coming from somebody in Region 1. What would you say to the people who are suffering in relation to their current situation with that manganese company. What can they do as people?
Well, I think you have to hit it at the policy level, right? You have to hit it at the policy level, one, and then two, it seems to be going in the direction in the way that people from Isanaru went and Chinese landing. If you don't get redress here locally at the policy level, you go to an international agency, right? But again, you have to have that kind of stick-to-itiveness, because some of the results we're seeing coming out now of those two instances are instances that were 5 years ago, 2013, 2010. So you might not see the immediate benefit from it, but if you're not getting redress locally, then of course there are international bodies.
Because we have to think in the future. We have to think about the future that we're leaving for our children and our grandchildren.
Correct, Natasha, correct.
While we might not be here, and we see a lot of deaths by various means, we might not be here, but we have to think of our future that we will leave for our children and our grandchildren. And to the people of Region 1, if you organize yourself, you have MP Ronald Cox in Mabaruma. I think if you organize yourself together, you can take action to ensure that there's some sort of relief that comes your way, because those things are health threatening.
Yeah, and when I said policy, Juicha, I also encapsulated into that government broadly, because if you have an administration that's not looking after your needs, then you got to look at changing the administration. To look after your needs, because clearly in instance after instance, especially in those two instances, what's happening there at Isanaru, what's happening there at Chinese landing, it's not in the interest of the people, because lots of those people, if not all of them, who are mining in those areas, right, those contentious land issues don't belong there. They go to mine there, mine on indigenous lands and so on. Again, looking at what the words here from Sarah Cruz, measly royalty goes to these people, goes to the communities, and they gone with the hug of it.
Which royalty goes to the community?
Right.
Which royalty?
Because if none goes there,
if
the people aren't empowered by what's happening on their own lands, then they got to look to those who can empower them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
I have, and I want to say this, because you just read it, and it just brought back some memory. Because when it comes to the situation that is being mentioned there in that editorial in Sarawak News with Omai gold mining and the collapse of the Taylor Dam and those things that actually had cyanide spewed into the Essequibo River, I want to say that we read it, and then sometimes we don't know the magnitude of the impact of that particular situation. I can tell you, coming from Region 7, Bartby in particular, communities along the riverine areas, a lot of indigenous communities were heavily affected, because those persons depend solely, in many or most cases, if not all, on the river water to do every single thing. And when that happened, persons were left without water. I'm telling you, persons were left without water. I believe it was Judy David at the time, as a representative in the parliament, coming from Bartico, said she fought very hard to make sure that those communities, that they got black tanks to go in and give to the persons and all of those things, because at that point in time, the PPP was in office, they did not do anything much for the people, and you had to literally fight them for them to actually care about the impact to these communities and all of that.
Nothing has changed, and it's because
there's something, as you said, there's something that has changed, because I want to say also that Omai operated before this information age. Let me just say that, right? Before, people out there cannot comprehend the amount of gold that was extracted by the company that left our shores. And whilst persons are in absolute poverty in our country, people can't comprehend the amount of gold. You can't imagine.
Ashley Beaming and John with SOPs.
The monster trucks. I'm the kid you not. You can't imagine the monster trucks that actually use filled with gold that leaves those mines. You cannot comprehend the loss for our country. Whilst those resources are being shipped abroad, and whilst a few persons at the top is getting the nice kickbacks, and the people in the country are left to suffer. So I have major concerns when it comes to the manner in which we are going about. But I am going to say, this is an information age. It's different now.
Yes.
And I'm going to assure you that it's not going to be the same like before, when persons come in like thieves in the night and actually going about business as however they so feel pleased, because our country is filled with resources, and we cannot sit back for persons to just come and rape our countries of the resources. And I don't go against investments. The persons can't ever think about that. Don't ever put me that I support investment, but it must be structured in such a way that there are benefits, real core benefits that the people of this country actually will see. Elevation in their standard of living altogether. If you're not seeing that, then don't talk to me about any one of these investments.
Hope you are hearing Rita. Don't talk to she.
Right?
Good. Don't talk to her.
Sharon, I
That's the
realize
benefits.
that we are winding down
Yes,
on
we are.
program time.
We are.
I want to answer a question that was
Go right
asked
ahead.
in the comment section.
Oh, Natasha wanted to comment today too.
Yes, Carl Miller is asking Jurita, maybe a little while ago when we were talking
Okay.
about higher education, he's asking for Jurita to list the institutions that are accredited. Carl, there are many,
Mhm.
and Jurita, I want to answer for you, please.
Okay.
So that you don't have an assignment for
I
Carl
think,
Miller.
but let me just say this before Natasha answers. I believe Natasha have a master's in
Public
in
administration.
public administration, but
Yes.
you have a lot of training when it comes to specifically in
Yes.
education.
Yes.
I got
Right.
finished my master's. I feel left out.
Right. So
I started. I got finished. I got
listen,
finished.
we can.
Feel left
We can.
out.
Sometimes I want
Two
to
against
mention
one
these
here.
things, right?
So we qualify as yes.
I don't think people know this.
But we must.
Yeah.
We must let people know that
Yeah.
we are a qualified group of
Yeah.
members
Yeah.
of parliament.
Yeah.
Jurita has her master's.
I have a master in political administration also,
Yeah,
degree in economics. You know, we
I
know
feel
a
left
couple
out from the
things, you
MBA,
know.
the MBA club. Yeah, I'll finish up quick.
But let me say that yes, Jurita, you're right. I spent I think it's 12 years in education.
Mhm.
I spent 8 years at the National Accreditation Council. I actually
You spent 8 years where?
at the National Accreditation
The National
Council.
Accreditation Council. All right,
And
Natasha, talk to us.
I was privileged to be the person that developed the institution from an embryonic stage to its launch to all of the programs. I would have benefited from the training from international agency. I did all of my work attachments in Trinidad, and I can tell you that there is a website, the National Accreditation Council's website. You can go there. There's a list of institutions that are registered. In Guyana, the legislation allows us to accredit programs, not institutions. And so at the University of Guyana, let's just say they have 100 programs. I know that they have made steps to have the degree in medicine accredited because that is regulated by a regional body. But you can visit there. You can also see the list of registered institutions. Registered institutions mean that they would have gone through the preliminary process and granted approval to operate for a maximum of 3 years, which the Ministry of Education, the council is actually a semi-autonomous agency operating under education. They send external evaluators to evaluate the academic and non-academic standards of your school. And based on your performance, you are granted approval. So Carl Miller, there's a website, there's a Facebook page, the information is there. FYI is where you get credible information and valid and credible information. And so
That's it.
as I take my leave, I urge you to use all of the information, and Sherrod will tell you more about that. Ensure you support FYI.
Thanks for that. Thanks for that plug.
Yeah, Natasha came on like an expert. This
I'm
month
telling
when
you,
it
I'm
comes
telling
to-
you.
When it comes
Yeah,
to these cues.
yeah. Folks, that's our time. That's our time and that's our program. And guys, we're so happy that you guys have joined us this morning. This is what we aim to do, set the tone for the day. Valid, as Natasha says, incredible information daily, Monday to Friday. Here, and we're so happy to be with you. Apologies for the staff who, as we started, we were so excited to have Natasha that we probably didn't press the right button or something,
And we got a black screen.
we got a black screen. But we were building suspense as to who we had on.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the excuse.
Thanks for joining us.
Incredible one.
Cherry Baskin, Greenwich, and Candy, the lead Indigene. We got Wesley Ward with us and Pamela Dover, Dave Durrell, and all the usual suspects. All the usual
I see
suspects.
Anne-Marie Roberts here this morning. I see Pops. Hey, Pops, how are you doing? I see Steve West. How are you? And Shirley Crichton here this morning. Isabella Butters. Good morning to you, Isabella. And of course, we have Susan Washington, Deborah, Karen Gordon, Donna Liverpool, Bella. I see. The names are going
Plenty,
so
plenty,
fast.
folks. Folks, as you go, you want to share?
Yes.
Share?
Really
Well,
Hello, somebody in the comment section, I forgot the name, they said, and then I quote them, it's not me. Share the damn blasted live stream. I didn't say that. Somebody in the comment section, you might want to come up and say
Yeah,
about
yeah.
it.
I've been accused of, because persons call me usually, right? And I've been accused of keeping Cher tied up like a tiger.
Oh my goodness.
Because in the morning
Power-
program,
power-
they
Yes.
said
Power
I should release him in the morning and let him have either Cher this morning, calm down, you know,
Yeah.
keep the energy for the night.
The tiger is at 8 o'clock in the ring.
We
Yes.
don't push way.
Passionate.
Saturday easy.
I'll be ringside.
Yeah.
That's my position.
Yeah.
Ringside in the
Yeah.
comment section. Monitoring all you lovely, decent people, how you behaving tonight.
That's our time, folks. Stay safe. Last word goes to Natasha. I should stay safe. Truth.
Have a good one.
Make sure you say a prayer for all of us, as we will take care of you too in our prayers.
Mm-hmm.